Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Imminent Sonic Destruction guitarist Tony Piccoli to the podcast. The new Imminent Sonic Destruction record, Floodgate, is out today on FC Records. Tony talks about wanting to play drums but ending up a guitar player, how Dream Theater altered his musical trajectory, the formation of Imminent Sonic Destruction, the themes on Floodgate, and more. Make sure you check out Floodgate in the link in the show notes. Support independent music and discover a killer new band. Thanks so much for listening to As the Story Grows. If you're brand new to the podcast, welcome. You can find links in our show notes for our mailing list, our Discord community, and our Patreon page where you can support the show financially and get early access to every episode for just $1 a month. And if you think somebody might dig this episode or the podcast in general, I would love it if you shared it with them. Enjoy today's conversation with Tony from Imminent Sonic Destruction. How are things up there presently? What's the weather like for you guys?
It's cold, 36 degrees, and I'm working outside today, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Did you grow up in Detroit?
I did.
Yeah.
I grew up here. I was born here, raised here, lived in Arizona for a handful of years, and then came back.
Okay. What? I mean, why'd you go to Arizona and why'd you come back?
My parents divorced, and my mom moved out west. So I decided I'd go out that way for a few years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What was growing up like?
Growing up was fine. Kind of lived in a kind of regular, kind of suburban, boring town. Typical, life in that regard. But yeah, nothing too wild, really.
Yeah. What got you into music?
Well, Nirvana. Yeah, when I was a kid, I was like, 11, 12 years old or so. My buddy across the street, one of my best friends, his name's Jesse Shirley. He got himself a guitar, and he was listening to a ton of Nirvana and Offspring and Green Day and all that kind of stuff. So that was the stuff that I really cut my teeth on, Stone Temple Pilots. And Nirvana was my first love musically, and eventually I got a guitar as well and started learning how to play everything.
Nice. Was I guess just Nirvana and Kurt and the way he played your inspiration for picking up guitar?
Not necessarily him specifically. Okay. Me and my buddy, we had this dream of starting a band, and I was supposed to be a drummer, but my dad got me a guitar instead, which was probably the smart move for him.
Yeah. Was that just a disappointment? You're just like, oh man, I don't want to play this instrument.
No, honestly, he told me, he's like, I'm not getting you a pair of or a set of drums. And I was like, oh, okay. But then, Christmas came and I got a guitar. So
yeah. Yeah. What is your gradual kind of progression from Nirvana into metal or heavier music?
So it really stemmed all from learning how to play Nirvana songs and then wanting to challenge myself to learn something more difficult. So it went from Nirvana to Metallica and kind of anything in between that. And so that's how my progression got into heavier music, was Metallica. Metallica was one of my favorite bands for a long time. But, of course, I fell in love with all kinds of stuff surrounding Metallica, Pantera, Megadeth, and, all that kind of stuff. And eventually, in my pursuit of learning how to play more difficult stuff, Dream Theater came across. Yeah. What it was I think it was Guitar One magazine, and I was subscribed to it. I used to learn whatever song they tabbed out, and one time they put out "Burning My Soul" by Dream Theater, and I learned it, and then I actually heard the song. And after Dream Theater, of course, that's when I fell more in love with prog, like early Genesis, and of course, as things progress, you get into heavier stuff like Meshuggah, and I started having more appreciation for death metal. And of course I had a new metal phase too. So as I was a teenager, right at the height of all that.
Right. And all the bands had their new metal phase, right? Like
for sure, Slayer did.
Machine Head, Slayer, In Flames, like all of them, even newer bands. It's like Suicide Silence did like a new metal record. It's like it was just the thing at the time. What was the music scene like in Detroit or the suburbs for heavy music? Was it good? Was it like easy to start bands, or was it just like, I don't know, a struggle?
So we have a really good heavy music scene here, and I didn't really know it. I didn't know the scene at all until I had moved back from Arizona, and me and the guys in the band, we formed in 2007, and it was then I discovered the scene around here. Bands like Black Dahlia Murder, Battle Cross, they're from here. Temple of Void, and they're doing their thing. Some are still, and but we have a lot of great bands here, and they're all super supportive. There's no like shit talking. There's none of that here with any of the bands, and I've made some pretty good friendships with a lot of the guys here, and there's going to be plenty of nights where, hey, who's playing tonight? And you're going to just go to a local show and run into a bunch of the guys in other bands that you see. So it's good. Awesome. The scene's good here.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's talk about Imminent Sonic Destruction. How'd this band form, and was it kind of always built on this love of progressive metal?
Yeah, for sure. So the way we were formed was, I wrote a bunch of demos, like while I was in high school and right out of high school, and I didn't have a band or anything, but I showed the demos to a friend of mine, John Kotzian, who ran YetsyJam.com, and his Rolodex runs deep, and he really enjoyed my demos. And so one day he says, I'm going to put a band together, and you guys are going to play some of these songs for a show. And so he did exactly that. He got Pat from Tiles, or he was just out of Tiles at the time. He got our keyboardist Pete. He was in a band called Space Nelson. Scott Thompson, our other guitar player, he was also in Space Nelson, but he was also writing his own solo material. And then our bass player Brian, I had known Brian probably the best out of everyone in the band prior to us starting. He's in a band called Justify, and everyone agreed to do it. And we played one show, got kicked out of the venue, and then we played the one show that he actually wanted us to play. And really ever since then, we had such a great time together. Yeah. We got along so great that we just kept going. So that's awesome. That's how we are. That's how we got to where we are today.
That's awesome. What was the inspiration for the band name?
So we first started, we were called Mellotron, and, but we got in trouble for using that name. So what happened was we actually emailed the owner of the copyright for the name Mellotron, of course, the instrument. Yeah. And we, and 3 years later, he responds with just a nasty response saying, "Don't you effing do this. If you try this, I will sue the it was bad. It was really bad. And so that's why we changed our name. And the reason why we're called Imminent Sonic Destruction now is because when we were Mellotron, we would play an old Hawkwind intro. And it was like this whole diatribe of, I can't think of it right now, but basically it sounds like the world's gonna end, and you need to like protect yourself, cover your ears, and because imminent sonic destruction is coming. And so we would use that as a live intro tape. And as soon as he would say, imminent sonic destruction, the hi-hats, and then we go right into our first song.
That's awesome.
And it was kind of like our slogan is really what happened. And so when we were trying to figure out a new band name, we had a whole list of names, and we weren't in love with any of them. And we said, why not this? Like, it's already on our T-shirts. Like, let's just do it. And so that's how we became and still are Imminent Sonic Destruction.
Nice, easy transition there.
Yeah.
Band names are hard. I won't name who the band was, but I got a release today, and I'm like, it's one of the dumbest band names I've ever heard. I'm just like, geez, who thought of that? It's difficult. What? Yeah. Talk to me about FC Records. The band's on it. This is your solo ambient stuff is on it too. Is that like your own label, or is that something local?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just it's our own label. It's my label, I guess you could say. Who knows? Maybe I'll expand it one day, but it works for now. It's just something I came up with forever ago when we put out our first EP as Mellotron. I wanted it to have a record label name, on everything. Yeah. I didn't want to just, because I guess, the way you look sometimes, or the way you present yourself sometimes, kind of makes an impression on people, I guess. So, and I just stuck with it. Now that's not to say that we haven't been trying to get on one of these other labels that everyone's heard of, but in this instance, I didn't hear back from anyone. So FC Records 009 it is.
Nice. Yeah. And with the way music has shifted over the last decade, it's easy to kind of have your own label, produce your own vinyl CDs, whatever, and just like have it on streaming services where you're not a lesser band where you just have a shitty demo tape anymore, right?
Right.
Let's talk about this brand new album. It's called Floodgate. What has changed listening back through your discography? I mean, the band sound is consistent, but there are subtle undertones and shifts, and obviously technology has gotten better, making recording easier. What were things you wanted to try differently when you set out to write this record?
Have you heard it yet?
Not the whole thing, no.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure like if that's been made available to everyone yet. So I think what's different about this album, at least from my perspective, is this one kind of came together quickly. The idea behind it is, like let's say you have like a significant event in your life, and you're a creative type. For me anyway, I like to. I'll write some lyrics, record something, and it all kind of happens quickly. Like you open up the floodgate, right?
Yeah.
And so there's two songs, Floodgate 1 and Floodgate 2, that are kind of based on that idea. And the other thing too is there's some songs, there's 3 songs on the album that I never really intended for ISD to put out. I was just going to put them out on my own, but that never happened. And I showed them to the guys, and they were cool with adopting them as ISD songs. And they don't sound like the rest of the discography. They're a little bit different. So so in terms of that, this album's got kind of your typical ISD, heavy stuff going on, but then it's got something that's a little bit different from our previous albums, like songs like The Wait, and I can't think right now, but The Light at the End of the Tunnel. Find Center too is the other. Those are the 3 songs that weren't going to be ISD songs but have become ISD songs. And I think think they just really kind of make the album feel a little bit different, but not too different.
Yeah. I mean, with progressive metal, you can kind of play with the sonic landscape where not everything has to be like in your face, and like you have that playground where people almost expect it to have something come out of left field, and it works. Yeah. Who did the album artwork? It's a gorgeous picture.
Yeah, that was Travis Smith. So the same guy that's done all the Opeth albums and a bunch of Devin Townsend records and Megadeth and all kinds of bands. I couldn't even tell you all the bands he's done work for, but yeah, it was Travis Smith. He's the best. I can email him and be like, hey, I got this like general idea. And actually for this album, I said, I explained to you, I explained the same thing to him, and I said, here's all the lyrics. And then not too much longer, we get that front cover and all kinds of other images that, were directly influenced by the lyrics. So, and he's just the man. He's so good at it.
Yeah, it's an incredible piece of art, and it's one of those covers where you're like, oh, that would look great on vinyl.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
I really want to put out a vinyl of it too, so hopefully we can afford to do it soon.
Yeah. You guys have a handful of shows in April around the time the record comes out. What is your plan? Obviously, independent bands touring is hard. Everybody has jobs, but what's your plan or hope for this year after the record comes out?
So yeah, we're gonna do that short run of shows. It's just the 4 shows, but then we're also playing a new progressive metal festival taking place in Montreal. It's called Prague Storm. Headliners are like Into Eternity, and I'm gonna screw up the pronunciation of it, but it's I think it's Carcerius is the other one. They're from Quebec, and they're the shit in Quebec, in Montreal specifically. Because I hadn't even heard of them until this festival. I've been checking them out. I'm checking out every band now that's playing that festival, and they're all awesome. Some of them are wild, Flesh Vessel being the wildest that I've heard so far. But anyway, so we got that festival as well, and we are also trying to plan some more dates around that. So, we're hoping to get back to New York City, hit up some places we haven't been. Like, we've toured in the past before with Pain of Salvation and Fate's Warning and Circus Maximus, and we did some other tours as well. But right now, our focus is just getting more dates for later in the summer and maybe fall, and just trying to get busy, get on more festivals as well.
For the second single from the record, No One, you did the keyboard and guitar playthrough. What was the idea behind doing something a little bit different for that second single?
So I definitely wanted to do a playthrough video, and the guys that we worked with to do that video, they're great. It's kind of one of their specialties. Mm-hmm. And they also did a full form interview with us that we're going to put out a little bit later too. But the idea to do that video for me was we're a prog band, right? Yeah. And what do prog bands have that most other metal bands don't have? That's a keyboard player. Yeah. So, I pitched the idea to Pete, and he was down to do it. And so that's how that video came about. And of course, a playthrough video is supposed to be somewhat instructional-ish, where you're showing how to play the song, and of course I'm headbanging and shit.
Yeah, it's funny watching drum playthroughs where I'm just I'm not learning anything other than I can't fucking do that, right?
Yeah.
Just that's incredible. I will never be that good at drums.
Right.
Yeah. Is it tough being an independent metal band to try to find and create your space with, like, I mean, everything is so oversaturated. If I go on Bandcamp, there's 1,000 new progressive metal records out today, probably, right? Like, Is it tough to find your space, or is it just like grateful for those moments where you are making inroads and gaining audience?
I think it's tough for everyone. So, yeah, I mean, because you're right. We're not the only ones out there doing it. And I think for us, our big focus is, what's going to set us apart. And that's probably going to be our vocals, and trying to come up with good melodies and just do some killer harmonies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, obviously any progress we make, or, we're grateful for it. But I feel like, as long as we keep focusing on what we enjoy and we do it well, I think eventually that'll separate us from the rest. And then obviously it's just going to take an army of people that believe in us the way that we believe in ourselves, musically, and to eventually get more support from people that can really help us get out there a little bit more.
Yeah. Did you at some point take lessons to work on your vocals or your screams? Because, like, I mean, the biggest improvement I've seen in listening to the band is like the screams from that first record to now.
Yeah. I didn't take lessons. I just figured it out. But that first album was we put it out in 2012.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a long time ago.
Been a while. Yeah.
And so I've just learned how to do it better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, then before, if you were to see me do it live, my face would get all red, run out of breath, and it
blow your voice out.
yeah, it would just sound terrible. I mean, it worked. I don't think most people are going to listen to it and go like, "Whoa, he's bad at that." And I don't do it very often. So,
yeah.
But I think I just learned how to do it a little bit better. And I will say this: my buddy Kevin Roble, he sang I was in a death metal band for a hot minute called Drag Beneath, and he did the singing for that, and he took lessons. So I kind of gleaned a little info from him, just from him explaining what he learned in his lessons about breath control. And like, I do kind of more of a Fry scream, and he was doing like your typical kind of death metal, that guttural thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just took time.